Hi, it's Ryan. You can hear people playing in the pool right outside my window. And tweet, 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 tweet. The birds are happy. It's a beautiful day in Massachusetts. Today, I wanted to talk about root work. What it is, who practices it, and how you would know if someone is really practicing root work or not. So the word hoodoo and root work are synonymous with one another, but they're not exactly the same. Someone might practice root work, but not practice hoodoo. So like not all witches are Wiccans, but all Wiccans are witches. Not everyone that practices root work practices hoodoo, but everyone who practices hoodoo practices root work. I just wanted to make that definition clear from the beginning. And remember, this is based on my own understanding and my own experience working with spiritualists in the Carolinas, Black people, and going to Nigeria, going to Africa, and watching those priests and priestesses work. What is root work? Well, in Africa, it's traditional African medicine. And in the Western Hemisphere, it's African diasporic medicine. And because in the Western Hemisphere, like the Americas and the Caribbean, a lot of those practices mixed with indigenous people, a lot of people will call it Afro-Indigenous traditional medicine. It is magical, medicinal, and spiritual herbalism. It's also the understanding of toxic and poisonous plants. But when we say medicine, it extends way beyond like just being able to break a fever or cure a cold. Some of the medicines are medicinal. They have biological use. But then there is medicine that is used to treat emotional and spiritual disturbances, remedy situations, causes, conditions. So root work is used when someone is sick and needs healing. It's used for protection. It's used in rituals, especially initiations, and spiritual warfare, offensive and defensive magic. But the thing about root work is that it's African. That's the root. And in the Americas, practiced by Africans and Black people. If you're a practitioner of Orisha, Ifa, Santeria, Lukumi, Palomayombe, Haitian Voodoo, 21 divisions, Sanse, Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo, Obia, Odinani, you practice root work because it's a technology. There's protocols for this, regardless of the spiritual tradition in which it's practiced. In Lukumi, Santeria, someone that works the root is known as an Osainista, someone who is initiated and works with Osain. In Haitian Voodoo, it's Grand Bois, the master of the forest, the sorcerer, who is also thought to be a Taino spirit, an indigenous spirit, because the plants and medicines that are used in the Caribbean were used by the Tainos and not native to Africa. But the technologies are the same, and I'm about to teach you 5 ways for you to know when someone says they practice root work, whether or not they are telling the truth or whether or not they are lying or have not been educated or trained by an elder or got it through their family. Number 1, ancestors. It is ancestral, and those ancestors are Black Africans. So even if you're a white person like me, Puerto Rican or Cuban or Hispanic and white, you're calling on African ancestors, African spirits, or Black relatives to help you in your work. You're not calling on any other ethnic group. There is always an ancestral component in root work, regardless of the tradition, and the ancestors that are called come from Africa, like the 7 African powers. Number 2, music, prayer, song, recitation of verses. Ofo ashe, which is the power of the spoken word, is crucial when people practice this. You will see people singing songs. Now those songs could be gospel music, it could be songs to orishas, it could be songs to Loa, or there could be some kind of prayer like the praying of psalms from the Bible or the recitation of an odu. But there has to be a verbal component to it, and most likely some kind of song or musical component to someone who practices this. Next, water is usually always involved. I'm gonna be bold and say water is always in the ritual. That could be pouring water on the earth for the ancestors. It can be putting out a glass of water beside a white candle. It's making spiritual washes and spiritual baths, because spiritual bathing and different baths are huge in these traditions. Baptism, water immersion is an African thing. And if it's not water being poured on something, it's liquor or blood. Never human blood. It's always water, rum, gin, or the blood of a chicken or a goat, but animals, not human. The fourth one and the most important stuff is if you're practicing root work, you're working with materials. You're working with dirt from different places, from the bank, from the graveyard, from the prison. You're working with roots, you're working with herbs, you're working with pressed oils, bone, animal parts. And root work is not just an apothecary thing. It's not just about making topical products. It also happens in the kitchen. There are root workers that work in the kitchen. They make food, and they use the spices and the prayer and the song while they're cooking. Certain foods that we believe have spiritual components to them. Yams, collard greens, yucca. But you have to work with stuff. It's not just like writing a petition and sliding it in your shoe. That is magical. And that is hoodoo. But if you're a root worker, you know how to work with herbs. And last, the animistic component. That whatever is created is birthed. The creation of a talisman, or grigri, or mojo, or wanga, or an inkisi, or an inganga, produces something that is alive, something that needs to be refreshed, either with water, either with liquor, or blood, or buried, but it's something that contains ashe, energy, life force energy, that is breathed into it by the human, sometimes using a cigar to blow smoke on it, sometimes just blowing on it. But the words and the breath, the root and the herb, the blood and the bone, the dirt, the vessels and the oils, the ancestors from Africa, the baptism, the washes, the colognes, and the song and the dance and the singing. That is what makes something root work and not something else, not witchcraft. Witchcraft is understanding correspondences. The planet Mercury is associated with lavender. But in root work, it's about relationships. What relationship do I have with this plant? What relationships am I creating change in when I work this root? So I hope that was clear. I hope you like that video. There's a lot of people on TikTok who always have an opinion about who can and cannot practice root work. People read a book, they practiced it for a couple of months, and they think they're an expert on it. They weren't raised in households that practice this stuff. They didn't develop a practice over a decade, and they're not initiated in anything. And they're under the age of 40. So take everything that you hear on TikTok, including things that I say, with a grain of salt. And please leave your comments below, because I would love to hear from you. Okay, bye.